I have been posting videos every day for the past few months, catching up with videos that I've recorded over the past couple of years since I've moved to my new homestead, and there's been some big changes, namely within the family. I am 5 months pregnant, and we have had 2 years of growing seasons here on the homestead, and so I have so much to catch you up on. And one of those things is going to be a current tour of the homestead, but now is the time to be planting seeds for fall. And I want to walk you through how do you know what plants you need to sow seeds for, either indoors or outdoors, now for a fall crop. So let's talk about the first question. How do you know when to sow seeds indoors versus outdoors? Well, there's some seeds that prefer to be sown directly into the ground, like carrots or peas and beans, even lettuces. Those could go either way. I usually love to sow all of my cucurbits, like cucumbers and watermelon and squash, outdoors because they grow so quickly. There are some pros and cons to starting your seeds indoors versus starting them outdoors directly. One of the first pros is that you've got a seed like a cucurbit that grows so fast, you really need to just sow it in the ground immediately. But in general, most vegetables, most plants are going to be happiest if you don't have to transplant them and disturb their roots at all. So what's the purpose of growing them indoors? Well, there could be a couple of scenarios in which case either the temperatures aren't right outdoors and you want to get a head start, or you don't have space in the garden. So right now it's the end of summer and we're approaching fall, and I have some beds cleared out and ready to go ahead and start sowing directly for the fall. Today I'm going to be sowing some carrots and some broccoli. So the carrots want to be sown directly in the garden, but if I didn't have the bed space available and I still had a bunch of spring or summer crops growing, I would start my broccoli indoors. So let's get to it. So as I'm sowing my broccoli directly, there's a couple of things that I'm doing. We cleared out this bed, we cut everything back, which you should always do. You should never till, which disrupts the soil microbiome, makes your soil way less fertile. But we've cut everything back, and now I'm just kind of smoothing out the surface so that way I've got kind of a place where I can really see what canvas I'm painting, so to speak. I want any holes to be filled in, any fertilizer like the rabbit poop to be dispersed. I want it to be nice and smooth. And the next thing I'm doing is I'm coming through and I'm making these little divots in the soil. They're not very deep because these just want to be planted about 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep. And I'm taking my seeds, and I always oversow. And I am just sprinkling a bunch, honestly, maybe 4 or 5 in each little hole. I'm not even covering them up yet because they're really hard to see. And so I am just making my little divots, sprinkling my seeds, and I don't even know if I necessarily need to come back and cover them up. If I am going to cover them up, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to get a nice, really soft layer of soil and make sure that it's not full of a lot of bark and mulch, and I'm just going to sprinkle it real lightly on top, but enough that I can still see my divots and know exactly where I'm at in my planting line. But the next step to sowing seeds always is making sure you're watering in your seedlings. If I was not 5 months pregnant and if it was not 80 degrees out, I'd probably stand out here with a hose and a nozzle and just spray everything. But I'm going to go the lazy route and use a sprinkler. And this is actually going to be an even easier way to water over the next few days, because I'm going to leave this out here, and all I'm going to do is just turn on the sprinkler, which is up closer to my house, the nozzle, and then wait for germination.